Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our Local Marketing Industry Weekly Update. Live Q&A will follow the weekly update, and our next faculty call is going to be next Wednesday, June 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So it seems every week for the last couple of weeks we've had some big announcements and some news, and there's been a lot of changes in the local front. A lot of these changes are exciting, and it's interesting to be able to look back into history. You know, the old saying, they say that history repeats itself, and we've got to understand how history has changed our world it is today to be able to understand what changes likely may come. Well, the internet marketing space for the local world is no different. And one thing that I really enjoy to do is to study a lot of these corporations and businesses at many different levels and try to understand exactly who their leaders are, and understanding who a guy like Steve Jobs is and where he came from, and Sergey Brin and Larry and even Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, and what are some of their visions for their business, and what exactly are they trying to accomplish. And you know, one of my favorite stories goes back to Larry and Sergey when they started Google back in '96, and it was just a school project. And their mission at the time was to organize the world of its information. They felt they could build a program that could sort through information a little bit differently. Larry's thought comes from his dad, and his dad being a scientist, and he looked at his dad when his father would write a piece of paper and say, geez, when he gets published, his authority as a scientist goes up. And when that paper gets cited again, the authority of the original paper keeps going up. And he looked at the internet and said, well, that's kind of like how links work, and so web pages could have authority and when they get linked to. And essentially that's how the Google algorithm was originally coined. It wasn't set out to be a business. And so now we look at, you know, Larry taking that over the helm of Google 10 years later. He's been at it for, it was April of last year, so 13 and a half months. And his initial changes right off the bat were to add a social layer to the company. Everything of Google was social, and now we look at their new social platform, their third stab at it, and this is Google Plus, and how this is affecting the local market space is massively significant in just the whole ecosystem and economy of almost every democracy in existence on this planet today. Of course, in other countries other than the United States, search engines have market share, but they tend to follow each other. And so the social layer that Google Plus has provided to Google, it's interesting. Does Google really care if Google Plus is used like Facebook? I mean, to a degree, of course, that's arguable, but the information is what Google really wants. It's to understand what's going on in the social world, to be able to apply those factors to the core of what they do. And that's search, that's organizing information. And so, I mean, this is all leading into some big news today that a gentleman by the name of David Mim, every year he does, he puts together a research paper on the local search ranking factors, and he's just recently released his 5th anniversary. And it's an excellent report. I'm going to go through a lot of the main factors and highlight what's in it. David is a leader in our industry for this endeavor that he does every single year, and it provides a lot of insight. Now, I do have to provide some caution to everybody that's listening when we do go through this. these are signals, and these are ranking factors based off of opinion of others, of professionals within our industry. Granted, David's circle is a very, very good circle. The value of the opinions involved in this report is very strong, and the accuracy of the report is also very accurate by many different sources. However, the challenge comes that these are factors and not strategy. Think about that for a moment. We're going to be going through and talking about on-the-page factors for a Places page. Well, you got to forgive me because Places page is now Google Plus local pages, and we have to assume that a lot of the on-the-page factors remain the same, but nonetheless, there's a variety of off-the-page factors, citations we talked about, and reviews. Those are two of the three major pillars of local listings. And when we know, for example, oh, well, we've got to get our location theme and our product and or service theme inside a description and make it compelling. Well, okay, how do we make it compelling? Well, take, for example, a dentist. And where does that dentist want to pursue their business? Maybe they just invested $150,000 into some technology that facilitates teeth whitening further. And they want to move their business and get more business for teeth whitening rather than dealing with removals or crowns or different areas that dentists deal with. And then therefore, we're going to create a description that's compelling, specific to that target audience, and include the location. Well, of course you want to include the location because you're dealing with a business that's face-to-face. Well, that's marketing. Of course that's going to be a relevant factor in the description. So we're going to go through a lot of these factors, and we can look at each one of these factors. And interestingly, they've already been printed in history in marketing books. This is stuff that just makes businesses better businesses at the end of the day. That makes the user experience much easier to get the information that they're looking for. Whether it's to understand that this is a dentist that happens to be focused on teeth whitening, does a very good job in teeth whitening, has a whole bunch of people talking about teeth whitening, all within their own local community, and got positive reviews about that. Well, without Google+, without the Internet, that's exactly how businesses have always flourished in the old school world. They would go out and they would make sure that they had a sign on their office. And if you notice in, let's say, the niche of chiropractors, a lot of them just say chiropractor across it, and then in small letters they'll have, active living. And these are things that specific industries have traditionally learned over time to be able to enhance the experience of a particular user. Wow. What about education-based sales? For all those people that are on the line right now that aspire to have internet marketing agencies and service local businesses, how are you selling your services? Yes, it's a business-to-business sale. Yes, we utilize a solution selling approach, but we also have to educate prospects because there's so many yahoos out there today that are dictating, saying, well, this is what you got to go out and get so many links, and you got to get this. Let's go and do, well, we can get links through this strategy, and we can aspire to get that then, bookmark this, and oh, God, it's, so be careful with the factors. When we see the factors, far too often, the people involved in internet marketing get too excited and go and try to find the easiest way to satisfy the need of that factor. We need lots of inbound links from authoritative sources. Well, if I go and put an article on a Web 2.0 website, and that Web 2.0 website gets traffic and has authority, let's say like Squidoo, and I build a system to create a lot of these by paying somebody over in India, and then I distribute it to a whole bunch of sites, or even better, I go and get software that distributes that to 100 different websites all at once with the push of a button. Well, now I'm satisfying the needs of the algorithm. I'm giving it a lot of links. Not only a lot of links, some of those links are going to get on a website like eZine.com that's got authority to it, heck, maybe I'll even take that article and go and promote that one particular article and get some further authority. Well, that's what 90% of you guys do. And that's not what the rest of the world does. That's not what the algorithms are aspiring to ultimately look for. And that's what we're finding when we talk about strategy and signals. When we look at some of these factors and look at these signals, look back at history, look back at the marketing books, and look how can you apply and achieve that ranking factor by devising a logical marketing strategy for that business to satisfy the need of that factor. Not go out and find the easiest way or the quickest way to derive and satisfy the need of that factor, because in the end you're going to lose. Take a look at the recent updates. Penguin, Panda. What is exactly Google trying to do? It's put the whole SEO community up into an uproar. It's amazing. Frankly, it is. Well, okay, I'm using time here. I've got lots of stuff to get through. But David Mihm and the local search ranking factors and the general signals, these things haven't changed. A lot of this stuff doesn't change from time to time, but we can decipher it and better understand it. But again, you've got different pillars, let's say, different criteria. You've got your places page or your Google Plus local page. This was produced last week, so he still says places. But you've got, I call that on-the-page factors for your places page. And then you've got on-the-page factors for your business website, your URL. A lot of people in the local internet marketing community distinguish between organic and local SEO, and at the end of the day, it's not. It's one and the same. That's a whole other argument. So you've got these two. You've got on the page for places. You've got on the page for your website. And then you've got the internet. What is everybody else saying out there? I mean, you could break that umbrella down into items, like social and data providers, primary data providers, secondary data providers, public sources. Items like public sources might be your business registration information at your county clerk's office that's displayed on the county business website. You know how many times that is messed up? What I mean by that would be your NAP, N-A-P, name, address, phone number. The consistency of your NAP is absolutely a factor that's important. Why? So the search engines have built this into their algorithm. Oh, you got to have a NAP that's consistent. You got to have a phone number that's out there that's the same thing. You can't use tracking phone numbers. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure. Well, why? Why from a marketing perspective? Well, that falls under the marketing umbrella of branding. That's branding 101. That's one of the very first things you learn in any marketing class. Well, of course it's branding. You can't have multiple phone numbers all over the place. That's just going to confuse the consumers. All right. Social reviews. All right, let's get into some of these factors. So, definitely not going to go through all several hundred factors here. There are some that are important. One thing that comes to mind right off the bat, well, items like physical address in city of search. Well, that's your NAP, okay? We know that. We know that you've got to have that out there. You've got to have proper category association on your places page. Well, if you're a dentist and you choose chiropractor, why would you show up for dental searches, right? Obvious. Number 3 is proximity of address to the centroid. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting that it's still so high up on search, on the list. It is a factor that has dissipated definitely over the last year. As a matter of fact, going all the way back to Google Maps in 2005 when it was originally released, what you could do was take a look at the center of the city and the zip codes, and take the zip codes and draw a triangle on a map, and then right within the center of that triangle you pick an address, and that's the address that had the greatest propensity to show up. Well, now these service areas, they have a multitude of service areas over metropolitan areas. And for example, if you're searching for zip code 60102, or you're using a city name that's associated to that zip code, that's going to be what's associated with the proximity of the address to the centroid. However, that's not always the case. And there are a multitude of ways to improve and overcome that. For example, a delivery company. A lot of delivery companies will have their warehouses located in the outskirts and suburbs. I live around the city of Chicago. It's a pretty big area. A lot of warehouses in the burbs. But they facilitate big business downtown. The delivery industries get a lot of independent contractors, and so there's a lot of drivers that leave and start their own business out of their apartments right downtown and have a business that's registered with an address right downtown. And for a long time, Google was outranking all of these little businesses that were simply little startups that had little downtown addresses and weren't giving any business to all the big guys. Well, that started to change in 07. By 2009, it was solved within that particular industry. In the service area, it was actually April 6, 2009, when Google Places was launched. They also launched the service area as a metric, and then a year later, 2010, you actually had the ability to define service area through Google Places. And so this whole concept of service area was there to combat that factor of proximity of address to the centroid. Now, service area, interestingly, can be defined, well, let's forget about the internet for a second. How does a business define its area of service? Pretty simple. Maybe if you had the addresses of all your customers and took a map out and put a push pin where all your addresses is, and I drew a circle around that, it's probably going to be your service area. How can these search engines do that digitally? Socially. A social layer. Well, it's been weeks, not months, since we've seen these social layers included into Google's algorithm. So I wanted to share some personal opinion on the proximity of the address to the centroid and the likelihood of that factor continuing to be at the top of this list. Number 4, local area code. 800 numbers are a negative factor, if you don't already know. Having multiple phone numbers on a places page, having call tracking numbers. You know how many PPC firms exist around in the United States that are implementing call tracking phone numbers for their clients by the thousands, and they're turning around and they're screwing them? They're screwing them in their organic listings. Where does traffic come from? What percentage of traffic comes from organic versus paid listings in a Google search? Well, I guess it all depends on who you're talking to. And of course, I'm going to be a little biased as an organic search marketing individual. I hate to say the word expert or anything of that nature that comes after it, because I don't feel that I am continuing to learn. Yeah. It's frustrating that these firms are doing that. They do want to provide data to their customers. I get the fact that call tracking provides a lot of good data, but that data is there to present to their customers for their benefit so they can provide proof that their customers in fact are getting phone calls. There's no indication, no efforts that are tied into CRM software so they can understand how much business their customers are getting. They don't give a shit about how much business they're getting. They just want to prove to them that they're getting them calls, and they're screwing with their organic listing. So what is that percentage? Well, it's somewhere around 80-20. 80% of the traffic goes through organic searches, 20% goes through paid. So these paid solutions are screwing with their own customers' local marketing efforts, so they can give them data to prove to them that they're doing their job when in fact it's not the right data in the first place. CRM software, customer relationship management, Zoho.com. That's Z-O-H-O, or in the United States, Z-O-H-O.com. First 3 users are free. I have no affiliation with them. They're a competitor to Salesforce. I've used both, paid for both for multiple years. Great solution. CRM software, you can track your sales. You know how many small businesses today don't use CRM? There's 3 ways to grow your business, right? I digress so much. This is going to take a while. Get more customers, increase customer spend, and increase customer spend frequency, upsell and cross-sell. Something I forget frequently. All right. Product, service, keyword, and business title, but don't stuff your titles. It's actually it's a violation of the terms and conditions of Google. Oh, who cares? We violate their T's and C's all the time. So I never recommend that. We don't do that for our clients. But that is a factor. If you happen to get clients that happen to have their product or service within the title, so-and-so chiropractic clinic, I mean, naturally from a marketing perspective, the name, having the theme within the name or the location within the name, pretty important. If not, you get it in a tagline, definitely in descriptions and items like that. Photos. I mean, it's like, what, number 7, 8? It's way up on the list. Association of photos continues to be important. Let's talk about video. I mean, what was it? I don't know what year it was when MTV launched their very first video on the airwaves, and their first video was Video Killed the Radio Superstar, and that's kind of that's the world we're working in right now. Is video. 2005 marked one of the biggest changes we've ever experienced, and that was YouTube. And it doesn't seem like and feel like that it's really that big of a change today, because it's just another website that plays, you know, some video good. I still have a Comcast box. You know, the way I buy it, so antiquated, and TV market space concept. You know, all this stuff it hasn't. We're just months away. I mean, CES next year, January, is going to be, you know, the push of these smart TVs that are just completely integrated, and you know, utilizing devices like iPads to move and manipulate content on a device like that, but actually see it onto a big screen and have all of that just completely fluid. It's a massively different experience than anything we've ever seen before. And, you know, I've always talked about as marketers that we've now got the ability and understanding that we're not really delivering content through, you know, a mobile channel, whatnot, but it's, or, you know, mobile marketing as an initiative itself, but mobile is a particular channel, and know that we can market to people in their living rooms or in their bedrooms or their kitchen or even the bathroom. And so when they're in their living room, they're going to have these bigger screens, you know, 40 and 50-inch screens. What happened here? Just give me a second. I get Skype messages. Oh, you're cutting out. You're cutting out. Internet problems. Technology, huh? And so getting back to YouTube and the changes is you know, we look at Facebook's most recent launch of the video layer, and then Mark Zuckerberg and Sean Parker. Sean Parker is the founder of Napster. Okay, anybody knows anything about Napster? That was a game changer to get free music. It was a big deal. Well, he's Mark's buddy. Mark's the founder of Facebook. You know, Sean Parker was one of the first co-founders of Facebook and funded, you know, helped get funding for the first round of investments in the Facebook back in the day. And he also came up with Spotify. Spotify is, you know, the biggest tackle against iTunes on the Facebook platform, completely integrated into it. An instant audience of 800 million people. It's incredible. And most recently, they've launched the video version of that. And video chat on Facebook is another initiative. And Google's initiative for video has been there. And so when we look at items like on David Mims' list that say, you know, over the years we've seen the association of photos go up, and we've seen Google invest into getting professional photos for, you know, over 50,000 businesses in the United States for free, mind you. They can come in. This image for content is very, very important. And when we start to look at items like psychology, for example, you know, I'm pulling out all the books right now, blowing all the dust off. And, you know, psychology says, well, there's different ways to influence human behavior. Well, as a marketer, that's what we do, is influence human behavior. And, you know, we've got the three ways to do it, and we've got words, the words that we say. We've got our tonality. Like I can say, I want to go to the store. Oh, I want to go to the store. You know, I said the same words, but I said two completely different things. And then we've got our physiology. Well, you can't see me right now. I'm actually at home today, and I pace. I go back and forth. And sure, I may cut out sometimes because I'm swinging the phone around and my arms are going and whatnot. You don't see that. You probably hear some of that in my tone. So I've got two of the three factors here, my ability to be able to influence. But I can now take this audio recording and get it transcribed. Is it going to be as interesting if you're reading it? So you look at these three factors, and they have a weight to them, a percentage. You know, the words we say represent a weight of about 7%. And I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, so forgive me. I don't think this is going to add up properly. And then our tonality is somewhere around the mid-30s, I think 37. And then our physiology is in the mid-50s. And so you look at those, that's significantly different. Well, what does video do? Video brings all three components. Video brings the physiology, the tonality, and the words into it. You've got the greatest propensity to convert a prospect into a customer, or a lead into a prospect into a customer with video. You've got the greatest ability to deliver value to the end user, to deliver your story, to deliver your message, to deliver the answers to the problems that your potential buyers are looking for, with the greatest influence on human behavior. Of course the search engines know this. So of course they're going to put a lot of weight onto these factors. Well, video is not a factor that's ranked high in this search, because that's the past. That's what we've been looking at, the history. But we've got to take that history and predict as the things are going to change. So a year ago, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago, the association of photos have continued to increase to the point they're at the top portion of the list. Properly tagging your images and whatnot. That's the importance of video. And what type of videos can a local business make? Well, I think a local business can make 4 different types of videos. You've got testimonial videos, obviously, or reviews. You've got walkthrough videos, you know, a warehouse walkthrough, an office walkthrough. You've got a technical product or service offering, not very flashy and fancy. And then you've got your commercials, your marketing initiatives, your marketing messages, your sales videos, whatever you want to call them. You've got the ability to create videos like you've never had that ability before. Computers are way fast enough now, and software is way cheap and way easy to use. There's a tremendous amount of education out there to learn. I learned myself, so if I can learn, you guys can learn. Anybody can learn. Video's easy to learn. It's easy to set up studios. Two things with video that's very important, audio and lighting. That's simple. You can have a shitty camera if you've got good lighting and good audio. Get yourself a lavalier mic. Go to Walmart, buy some lamps, those big 500-watt halogen lamps. Green screening, blue screens, all that stuff is easy. So you can make the videos, you can create the videos on cheap. You can distribute the videos. You can get distribution through one channel that gives you greater distribution than NBC, ABC, and Fox combined. And that's called YouTube. That's only one channel. What about Facebook as another channel? Well, there's hundreds of channels on the internet. So you can produce content, you can offer value, you can distribute the content. This is the content that's important. And for all these people that are on the line right now that understand or have been involved in the internet marketing place and how internet marketers have sold stuff, I mean, they're writing the book. The stuff that they write, guys like Tony Robbins pick up a few years later. They pick it up, and then the mainstream businesses and the corporations secretly pick it up. And then, you know, 5 years later, it's, you know, everybody and their dog is, oh, my God, have you learned about this? You know, you just wait until, you know, creating an autoresponder sequence for local businesses when having, you know, an opt-in and providing value in return becomes the norm. Well, internet marketers have been doing that for 5, 6 years. So yeah, video. Albeit it may be low on the list, it is something that arguably will continue to increase on the list and become a major factor. Then you've got off-the-site factors. You know, the two pillars, reviews and citations. Well, under the umbrella of each of those, because like let's say there's, you know, 100 factors, 50% are going to be citations and 30% are going to be reviews. I don't know what that is. I had to break down at one point from a previous report, but I'll be looking at that in further detail. Nonetheless, you're dealing with citations and you're dealing with reviews. And with citations and reviews, the obvious are the ones that are at the top. Quality of citation. Well, where's the quality citation? Mike Blumenthal says your #1 citation is your website, is on your website. Yeah, of course. It's your business website. But I had mentioned earlier, public sources. What about places like the data providers? Go to getlisted.org. That's GATlisted.org. And they've got a list of some really high-end data providers. You know, guys like the Super Pages and the Yelps, whatnot. Of course, with quality, there is a quantity factor. They all say it's not about quantity, but quantity is important. Items like velocity of acquisition. These are factors that were not involved on his list last year and in previous years. And through argument, we continue to say that velocity is an important aspect. Why? Well, let's go back to the old school world. You got to look at how businesses operated. McDonald's. Take, for example, what product? I'm going to use their McRib. I was thinking about it this morning. I think that's why I'm using this as an analogy. I should be using a different local business. You know, okay, let's use a massage therapist. I'm feeling a little bit sore. Yeah, That's probably why I'm choosing that one. But what do they do to market themselves? I mean, they'll go to Chamber of Commerce, okay? And the more that they go to the Chamber of Commerce, the more people they meet. The more people that they meet, the more people that talk about their business, just kind of like, you know, getting +1 on a social network. The more people talking about their business, every once in a while they're going to throw some mud at the wall and they're going to get a new client that's sore at that moment, goes, I need a massage there. Volunteer. So, you know, so that's one way. But another way is that they may run a sale. They may run a promotion. And all of a sudden they run a promotion. They go and place an ad in the newspaper. Well, the newspaper prints it. There's people reading it. You've got distribution of content. There's a lot of people reading it. A lot more people seeing it and talking about it. They're going to get more business. They're starting to show up more in the eyes of prospects, just like in search, but it might be a search within their own head. It might be a search through their social network of their friends. But people have always searched for massage therapists in different ways. Of course, you can't say the phone book because the phone book was, well, you know, or who paid more money. But there's definitely search involved with a lot of social factors for the last century, last millennium, since the existence of commerce. Search has been involved. So where I'm going with this, and in terms of velocity of this type of information, the massage therapist is going to have a sale. All of a sudden, for a 2-week or a 3-week period, they're going to have a lot more exposure out in the world. They're going to be viewed by a lot more eyes. There's going to be a lot more people that are doing searches inside their heads and making decisions of who they're looking for, and ultimately that business is going to get more business from it. So these are signals that search engines look at for quote-unquote argumentative purpose for businesses that are having sales that are going on, or for businesses like McDonald's that bring back the McRib and have social factors and whatnot. And so that's why velocity of social factors are going to be a major factor in ranking in short-term results. But you will have to have the authority behind you in order to get that leverage. So you've got quantity, quality, and velocity of factors that are involved with citations and reviews, and also check-ins. But check-ins aren't really that big of a deal. So reviews. Reviews are the second pillar. And what's the deal with reviews? Well, yeah, we could start to look at all the factors of reviews. You've got to have reviews distributed through a whole bunch of sites, not just one particular site. Google favors their own review system because this is not included in Google Plus Local, but Google's more likely going to have a lot of propensity to favor Zagat. But reviews, I won't get into that. I'm going to talk about the importance of reviews and conversion first, or in a bit. But reviews is a second pillar. You've got quantity, and you've also got quality. Quality reviews has never really been a factor. But I'll tell you why quality reviews is now becoming a major factor in ranking. It's because of the authority assigned to the reviews. Now, think of this. I go to Yelp today, I sign up, and I go and review a local business, and I never touch that account again, and I give them a shitty review. And I go and I create another account in another week, and I do that, and I give them a bunch of bad reviews over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months, or even do it once. Why should Google show my review? Now, look at this scenario. Same scenario. I go to a restaurant. Even if I had a bad review, I go ahead and I review them off of Yelp. I give them a bad review. But I continually leave reviews on Yelp. And I seem to be an average person. I'm not an angry person. So I'm not out consistently leaving bad reviews and just going and leaving bad reviews. 85% of reviews on Yelp have 3 stars or more. So as long as my account is within the average of the threshold, 3 stars or more on average of my reviews, then my bad review is going to have a lot of authority to it because I'm an active person in my local community leaving a lot of different reviews. They want to listen to Scott's review. They're going to put my review up at the top, and they're going to trust my review a lot. So my account has authority assigned to it. Another aspect is what about Yelp versus, say, City Pages? Just give me a second here. My screensaver keeps turning on me. And, I forgot the statistics. How did that go? 67, something like 67% of reviews on Insider pages were all negative, and 85% on Yelp were 3 stars or more, so there's a huge disconnect. And, you start to dive into why and whatnot, and at the end of the day, it's just the real people that are involved with Yelp, where there's a lot of bogus crap and garbage within all the other networks. And Yelp goes to great lengths of trying to have a strong user base with real people. And so, I mean, why does this come to a surprise to people? There's more content created on the internet today, like today, June 13th, 2012, there's more content created on the internet on June 13th, 2012 than there was between the dates of 1992 and 2002. The first 10 years of the internet. There's more content created today than the first 10 years. Why? Because the first 10 years, it was all webmasters creating content. Today, everybody. Whew. Guess that's the difference between old school SEO and real search marketing, isn't it? Dealing with webmasters or dealing with the social world. So, we look at all of these factors. We have quality of inbound links to domains, quality of inbound links to locally relevant domains, quality of inbound links to places landing page URL. That's an argumentative one because it's a search, but now with Google Plus local pages, that's why it's arguable. Quantity of inbound links to places landing page URL from locally relevant domains, quality of inbound links to domain, diversity of inbound links to domain, quality of inbound links to a place's page, product and service, keyword anchor text is inbound links to place's page, business title is anchor text of inbound links to domain. This is all the same stuff that we know in SEO, all the best practices, all the on-the-page factors, all the links that we got to be able to get. That's what these are, the citations. The arguments for citations are no different. These are all best practices, folks, on authority. So remember, what is internet marketing? Qualified traffic plus conversion equals sales. We get qualified traffic by creating content that's relevant for the users and effectively and properly distribute that content in the areas that the users reside. That's the secret. Well, if I had a secret, that would be the secret. I want to talk a little bit about social factors. David's taken the time to break out some social factors. This is a like button, +1 button, sharing content. These are factors. You've got to create content that's relevant. Understanding best practices of social media marketing, having profiles, having your citation on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, having a Facebook page, having a LinkedIn business page, participating groups, like similar products and services, participate in the community, be active. I mean, these are all things that are important. These are all factors that are becoming more and more relevant in ranking. And, we get the question, well, Scott, how far, I'm a plumber. I don't think there's going to be people that want to listen to me on Twitter, man. Well, you're right, dude. I don't want to listen to my plumber on Twitter either. don't do it. You know, just because somebody said to you, well, that's a factor in ranking. And then when we start to look at it, shit, the list could be 200 long. And what the hell do we do? You know? So we're reading here that the number of plus ones is, you know, it's the number one social factor. So then people, oh, that's all the new thing, and I want to learn about Google Plus. And, you know, I got a reply from a prospect, you know, it's been on my list for years. He saw, you know, our PPC is on autopilot. It's running great, but I love all the SEO stuff that you do. And it was in response to an email I'm asking about Google Plus because I'm doing a big webinar tomorrow for the guys over at SEO Brain Trust. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm thinking about getting on Google Plus. You know, well, he doesn't. It's a courier business. You know, how many other businesses are spending their time hanging out on Google Plus and then go and find a vendor? I don't think that, you know, when I need a new vendor, a delivery company for what I do, I'm going to go and utilize the Google Plus social network as my source to find my new vendor. You know, maybe at some point in time, there's going to be some relevancy to that. Yes, he's got to, you know, get something that's up there. My point being is of all the things that you could be spending your time and money and energy into looking at, well, that's not it. Maybe I completely misunderstood. He just thought, you know, Google search, and who knows? But the point is far too often people are looking, Twitter, you know, I gotta do this. I'm a plumber, and people want to know what's going on, you know. A lot of things change in my industry a lot, and got to keep people informed. So go get Twitter. Things like click-through rate, people forget far too often. You know, there's a thing called a snippet in the SERP. Snippet in the SERP. That's a little song, huh? Maybe a song. Snippet in the SERP. SERP, search engine results page. The snippet is the little description that goes underneath the little blue text. That's usually pulled from the description field of a website, but Google has changed their algorithm a lot, and so different keywords will pull different snippets of information that's usually not used as pulled anymore. But we can still influence that snippet based off of the content and how content is laid out. As long as you pick up an HTML book, and you pick up a marketing book, and you understand how both of them work, and you can take your marketing content and put it into proper HTML best practices, you're going to satisfy all those needs. Rich snippets are something that seems to be showing in his results. Rich snippets are something that I've been talking about for over a year now. Google's been introducing rich snippets in different ways. They've definitely got a propensity for some value. What a rich snippet is, it's an HTML markup on your website. So let's say somebody, for example, sends you a handwritten note saying, thank you for a job well done. Well, Google doesn't know about that, right? Let's say somebody says to you verbally, job well done, man, and it's the mayor of your local town. You know, damn, that's pretty good. But Google doesn't know about it. So they introduced something called an H-review markup, and allows us to take text like a review text and wrap this H-review tag around it. It tells the search engines that, hey, that's a legitimate review. But what they don't tell you, and I haven't read anywhere, listen closely right now. Grab your pen and paper because this is key. This is critical. When you get these reviews and you wrap them, and then you put the little individual's name, you know, by Bruce, and you put a little picture of Bruce because we know testimonials are much better with a name and picture than just text. Inside of that H-review markup, you link Bruce's name to Bruce's profile on Google+, and then you ask Bruce to put a post up linking back to you. You've now got a massive, you've got everything, you've satisfied all the needs. You satisfy social needs. You satisfy review needs. Satisfy links. From all the technical perspective, we can look at it from a marketing perspective. You've got a very good testimonial, organic. It's a trustworthy testimonial because the reviewer has allowed his personal information, not just his name, but his entire social profile. So from a marketing perspective, that's solid. From a technical perspective in the algorithm, it's satisfying the needs of the factors. That's a strategy, folks. See the difference between strategy and factors, and far too often people are looking at factors. I don't want to take anything away from these factors. I mean, I'm talking about it all this time because of how important it is for our industry. And how important this report is what David Min puts out. I mean, it's quintessentially the #1 source of information that any marketer should be looking at. And that's coming from somebody that sells information on the internet. This is free, folks. All right, quick little recap here. Stuff that's important. You know, you've got your on-the-page factors for both your places page and your on-the-page factors for your website. You should be following the best practices for each of those. On-the-page factors for websites. We recommend there's about 9 different major items. Items like H1 tags, having your keywords in those, having your title tags. Listening to and understanding how anchor text works within a website, creating content on a blog, utilizing anchor text to link back. These are on-the-page factors. Citations, the same. Having your NAP, name and address and phone number. On your places page, there's also a list of on-the-page factors that are important. We go through and teach you to those that have a very high level, you know, making sure that you've got all the descriptions, all the fields filled out. You've got your local phone number. You've got your business theme and your business location sprinkled throughout the site. You've got full use of video, full use of pictures. You've properly tagged the videos, properly tagged all the pictures. Whew. So they're on-the-page factors. Off-the-page factors have to do with links and citations and reviews. Links from a board of places. Citations, same thing. Citation is just a web reference. Citations and links, they're all the same, really. And then reviews, authoritative reviews from people that are actually participating, from real customers. Whew, that's the local search. I'm using a lot of time here for this, so I'm going to fly through this one. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. I still got lots of notes on it. Spent a lot of time. Talked about all that too. Boy, whew, I can talk a lot. And then just before I get off of this report, it's just some negative factors. And you know, it's just stuff that you know your gut is wrong. Items like keyword stuff and trying to get your keywords into different categories, having 800 numbers, not listing your address, trying to hide certain things, having multiple phone numbers on multiple, or the same phone number on multiple place pages, having multiple place pages for the same address, inconsistency in your NAP. Mismatched who is information. That was one that I thought was important. Who is? That's, you know, for your URL. Keyword stuffing. And just some final updates for this week, because we're running out of time here. I just wanted to share some percentages on search market share. And Google's up. 67%. Bing is flat, 15%. Yahoo continues to slide, 13.4%. Ask at 3, AOL at 1.5% search market volume. Well, on that note, folks, that concludes our weekly update, our weekly local marketing industry update from Local Marketing Source. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to some questions.
That concludes this Local Marketing Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is provided from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers. Visit localmarketingsource.com for additional resources focused on online marketing for local businesses.